Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Ka-Pow Comics Best of 2023 Countdown, and we are into the top 5. And it's Miles Morales, because I love Miles Morales, and not just because I love Miles Morales, although I genuinely do. There's not many Spider characters I pay that much attention to. If Alex Paknadal's going to do Red Goblin, yes, go on, I'll check that one out. If Ramvi's going to do some Venom and Carnage, I suppose I can take a look. But with the exception of Hobie, who's my man, I think Miles Morales is the only one I've genuinely followed as a character rather than as just because of creators on it. But in a particular instance, 100% is down to the creator that's made this into the top 10, into the top 5 in fact. I'm going to talk about both of them in some depth, or at least some very specific things they do really well in depth. To start with, we're going to talk about the artist. And the last run on Miles Morales I really did like, but I bounced off it because of inconsistent artists. So the fact that in 12-ish, I want to say 12, let's say 12 issues. There's only been one with a different artist. The rest of the time it's been Federico, I apologise, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, I'm sure, Vicentini, I do apologise. But it's been him pretty much the entire time, I think, with one episode exception, and he is spectacular. There's a whole bunch of stuff he does really, really well. But when I talk about comic book art, I always talk about the few things you need to do really well, and if you don't quite do them, it's going to bug me a little bit, but if you do them to this level of quality, it's going to be worth talking about. Like, you can screw up some foreshortening every once in a while. I'll call you on it, but it's not really going to ruin my day, because good foreshortening certainly helps, but it's not the end of the world. You can even get some anatomy things wrong, and it's fun to point them out and how weird some faces look from the wrong angles. Can't really screw up three-point perspective, though. That's really important to get right. But the most important one for me, because it really shows an admiration and understanding of the form, is when you get dynamic motion correct on still imagery. Because that's the big thing about comic books. These are just drawings, taking a snapshot of an instant of time. And to do that in such a way that it feels like you are seeing just a moment in motion captured, that is a difficult thing to do. Some people will take attempts at it. I think one of the better examples I've seen that manages it really effectively is J.H. Williams III, and he'll do it with form of having like the same character moving through 3 panels so it looks like they are actually in motion over time, and that's really cool. And I think Casper Wingard does similar kind of things. It's great when you see this kind of thing happen, but to my mind the best way of doing it is just to have that captured moment of dynamism, to make it look like you are looking to have caught that one moment, and it's only because you're paying attention to the image that you don't see time passing as it carries on. But you know exactly what's happened before, and to get to people's position, you know what's going to happen next because the gravity and the physics and the motion all work together. And yeah, Federico absolutely nails it. Like, I literally cannot think of an artist who's doing it better in comic books at the moment. I think maybe with the exception of Daniel Warren Johnson, but he still does use like motion blur quite a bit to like indicate motion without necessarily just capturing the moments of motion. And I'm a big fan of Daniel Warren Johnson. The fact that I'm putting this guy above him should tell you how sincerely I love the artwork for this one. Throw into that the fact that he's also an absolute master at the non-verbal dialogue, just by expression and stature. He's absolutely brilliant at character design. He has an understanding of setting that's really effective. Like, when we have the fight scenes in this comic book, they can be in different places, and he will change the motion and the freedom that characters have, so it still feels dynamic, but it feels like they are limited by the world, not by his artistic capabilities, because he's fantastic, but the fact that they're fighting in enclosed spaces, or they have other pressures on them to stop them doing what they want to do. Genuinely brilliant looking comic book. However, it's the writer is the main reason I jumped on this one, because for people who don't know, it's Cody Ziegler. And you've probably heard me raving about this guy before. I assume he's a fantastic guy. I've never actually been able to really engage him, because as a queer POC punk who writes one of Marvel's best-selling comic books, I imagine he's probably got a little bit of grief online, so he's very limiting on who can comment on his posts and even who can tag him in things. And that's fair enough. Like, a parasocial relationship is not the most healthy thing, but I do wish every once in a while I could be like, hey, dude, you're really, really good at what you do. I wish I could be there and do that for him, but I understand why. All I have is what I've seen of him. But what I have seen of him is fantastic. And I've waxed a look in the past about his Spider-Punk. It is generally fantastic, anarchic storytelling. But something that you may not know he's done, he's one of the writers in the She-Hulk TV series. Fantastic work of comedic fiction. In fact, that little bit where she goes into the real world, and they go to the writer's room at Marvel, one of the people in that room is Cody Ziegler. So there you go, that. And also, he's writing the current season of Rick and Morty. I had no idea. I got 5 episodes in before I realised. And it's kind of cool that they realised that Justin Roiland was an absolute piece of shit. So they brought a nice person on, and it was Cody Ziegler. Yay! And he's also just genuinely funny. I have really enjoyed this season. And the fact that he is that good a writer with that much range, putting him on Miles Morales, as I said, one of Marvel's better-selling comic books, showed an absolute huge amount of faith. And I think that's faith earned, because I could get into some topic here about the idea of whether or not anarchist progressive writing is ever really respected by corporations, whether or not it's just seen as a way of placating people, but I still think there is a bit of a risk if you take somebody who did write Spider-Punk and put them on a major title like this, that Marvel might feel like they have to keep an eye on that creator. But they are different characters, different backgrounds, different ideologies. So I think he's been allowed the freedom to just let Miles be Miles. And this is the most important thing for the writing for me. Because yes, the storylines are fantastic. The introduction of new characters are brilliant. The relationship between all the characters are well worth paying attention to. But it is the Miles Morales of it all which really, really grabs me. Because he's a young African-American Latinx guy and from a working class background. He's got a dad who's a cop, a mum who's an EMT, I believe. I could be wrong on that one. Other members of the family have been involved in crime. All this is kind of relevant because eventually I'm going to start talking about an authentic voice, and I want to make it sure that nobody thinks that this is a good bellwether for what constitutes an authentic voice. But it is worth pointing out that I do believe it is. So he's got all these things going on in his life, as well as being a superhero. But these cause him stress and have given him trauma. He's been let down by a mentor. He's gone through terrible things. He's had to leave people behind. He's struggled with maintaining the various aspects of his life. And rather than try to just carry on being a hero, to just go for I am the best that there is at what I do, Wolverine-esque kind of thing, he is reaching out. He's getting help. He's literally seeing a therapist. This might not seem like much to a lot of people out there, but for a young POC character in Brooklyn, I think that was a huge step to make, and Ziegler wrote it in a way which felt authentic. Not just that, but after being let down by one mentor, he's reached out and found somebody else to take them under the wing. The fact that it's Misty Knight, by the way, is chef's kiss worth of amazing. But it is the authentic voice which is the important bit for me, because in the same way that motion on the page is very important for comic book artistry, authentic voice, or at least a voice that sounds like they're not reading from a script, but they're actually talking naturalistically, is one of my big things when I look at comic book writing. And this doesn't necessarily mean they can't be bold and make declamatory statements. I mean, Adam Warlock, I'm fairly sure he would actually speak the way he does in all the media he's represented in. It feels very in character for him. For Miles Morales, he's a young lad from a working class area of Brooklyn with a whole bunch of issues going on, and Ziegler managed to make him sound authentic. And again, I need to state I am not an arbiter for what is an authentic voice for this kind of character, but I would like to think that it's done such a good job that even I can see it. I mean, when I watched the Spider-Verse movie and we had Daniel Kaluuya and we found out that he was rewriting some of the dialogue to make it more authentic for the character of Spider-Punk, I was like, absolutely brilliant. And I did feel that way, and I did go out and learn what Yamandem means, because I wasn't 100% sure when I saw the movie. I try, but in this particular instance, it feels like 100% nail on the head. It is a youthful character. It's full of energy. He is dealing with trauma and a life that is hard-lived, but he also loves his friends, loves his family, and he's trying every day to not just be the Spider-Man he thinks people deserve, but be the better man he thinks he has a right to be, or has an obligation to be even. He's trying to make amends to people he's let down in the past. He's trying to maintain relationships and build new ones. He's trying to always be the person he thinks he can be. And while doing all that, he's witty and charming and personable. He's got a sense of humour in fights, which is reminiscent of Parker, but with its own spin on it. He's got a cockiness, which I think could be seen as maybe covering for something at times, but also feels authentic when he's in the right place in his head. And all these things are just Cody Ziegler knocking out of the park, making this one of the best things I've read for quite some time. It certainly deserves the top 5 spot. Genuinely love it, and if you haven't taken a shot on this particular version of Miles Morales, I think this is probably the best version of it that I've read. Give it a shot. That's it from me for now. I'm going to come back tomorrow with another review, with another of my top 10 countdown. Until then, look after yourself, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.